Our next two episodes are going to be with the candidates that are running for the District 4 seat in Congress. The incumbent is Mike Thompson, and one of his Democratic challengers is Eric Jones.
We're going to play them in whatever order we feel like it. It doesn't represent who we believe should win. You make your own choice.
Welcome to Public Comment. I'm John Dunbar, former mayor of Yountville.
And I'm Alfredo Pedroza, a farmer.
I'm Eric Jones. I'm a candidate for Congress.
Thank you for joining us as we talk about politics, people, and whatever else Eric wants to. If you had only come to us first.
We would talk you out of it.
I don't believe that any politicians enter any office with their votes predetermined.
You can't just be another person saying the same things that the party wants you to say.
What are you going to do differently?
Eric, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have a conversation to learn more about you and why you have made this choice in your life to run for Congress. So tell us a little bit about you, Eric Jones, the person. What got you here eventually to the Napa Valley?
I'll start by saying rarely do I have two people in a room who are just as crazy as I am. So
no one's going to disagree with that statement.
You know what? We got to toast to that. All right. Cheers to that. Let's start off right there. Yeah.
Jesus, John.
I noticed that Alfredo gave me the largest pour too. He knows me.
Oh yeah, we're going to work through these glasses and then some more. So I feel very fortunate that I've kind of seen both sides of America. So I grew up teenage mother, small town, ag town. My father is a disabled veteran, and he spent a lot of my upbringing either in a hospital or at home in a chair watching TV. And I like to say that the pharmaceutical industry kind of, for a while, owned my family. The healthcare industry definitely did. And for a veteran in pain in a small town with bad healthcare, you go to the office and they just say more pills, more pills, more pills.
This is back in Maine, right?
This is back in Maine where I grew up. And even in a hospital setting, he went through 5 back surgeries. Several of them were honestly completely unnecessary.
John's about to have surgery on Thursday for.
Well, depending on when this is published, it may have already happened, but
back,
shoulder.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Tell them to make the incision small.
Right.
I'm going to feed you wine though, John. So you're going to recover.
I'll be drinking out of with a straw
the entire time.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to be the first in my family to go to college. I got a full scholarship to Yale University.
Congrats, man.
I don't usually say that because sometimes it's not. I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I had a great public school and a great mom, and those two things gave me a platform where I could be good at school, and I had teachers who lifted me up. And I want every kid in America to have that opportunity.
Well, and I just want to pause you there for a second, because most people that say I'm the first typically look like me, right? And I'm not trying to make it about race, but I think we have to understand in America, everyone has a story, and you were the first of your family to go to college. That's fucking meaningful.
Thank you.
Right. And I think because we just gloss over this stuff sometimes, right? Because we expect, I'm not saying the brown kid, but people that are immigrants that come in, they're the first. We're not the only ones that own that story. It's
people are very quick to
like
label.
you, right? And we should pause and acknowledge that's America right there, right?
And look, I think I have a feeling this podcast we got off track, which is good. We come back on track, but it's something that's important for the Democratic Party as well, right? Because America's a funny place. We don't have croissants or pizza, and we have great pizza, but we don't have what Europe has, which is thousands of years of cultural history. What we do have is these stories about the American dream and the story of struggle and the story of people coming together that do all look pretty different and have no real reason to be together, except for the fact that they came here. And then you hear these stories propagate through family histories. Yeah. And I think that's really important. And so I appreciate you saying that, because I'm sure we'd sit down and have a few more glasses and the stories would all sound different, but they'd have the same flavor.
Yeah.
And to me, recognizing that is what brings us together. And look, now I will say, I carried that chip on my shoulder. And then at a certain point, I matured and realized that, by the time I graduated college and I looked like me, and I'm a big guy and I walk through the world in a certain way, and I'm a white dude, and I benefit from that. So it flipped, right? It went from being somewhere where I didn't know. I mean, I went to college wearing like thrift store clothing, right? At a very fancy university. But then once I got out,
That might be the thing now.
Yeah.
If you look at the kids,
Totally. Yeah. It's definitely, thrifting was not cool back when I grew up. But then it flipped, right? And then people actually were looking out for me because it was easy to back the kid from Maine who had my sort of story. So I recognize that some people are going to carry people of color in this community are going to carry that with them forever.
Yeah.
Right. So I acknowledge you saying that. Thank you. And look, that's the beginning. But at the other end, I've been really lucky that I've seen what building a business is like in America. And I've seen the benefit that can bring to a community, the job creation. I've seen how shit gets done.
Yeah.
And just the urgency at which people look to solve problems. And frankly, I don't see that in the public sector today.
So,
but it's urgent.
Well, now that we left the public sector, and retired because
we contribute to this shit too, John. Come on. But I think Eric is making a great point though, John, in terms of the pressures businesses face. And I think sometimes we all get lumped into things, John, right? And you get lumped into, you're a business owner, right? You've created wealth. But I think what would be great though, Eric, is to talk about the risk you took, right? As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to have wealth. Like we can judge you today and say, you're a lucky guy. I've been to your house. Phenomenal. But it didn't happen. Luck is a part of it, but you took risks to earn these outcomes. So I think, tell us how you got to the point where you're privileged enough to live in Napa, to own a home in Napa, to raise a family in Napa, right? Because I think people look at you today and they're just going to make an assumption based off what they hear.
Yep.
But there's a story behind you. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you got to become
from Maine to Napa Valley.
To a business owner.
Yeah. So I mentioned, going to college. I actually thought I would work in government. I was about to take the State Department exam. My father got really sick. And it gave me this visceral decision point where I had to make money. Like we were in hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical debt. I took the job that gave me the biggest signing bonus. Like that was I didn't think that until I was a junior. I was like, I'm gonna do something else. I'd spent 2 years abroad in college. Studied 5 languages. Like I'm gonna have this, I don't know, be a diplomat or something. I wanted to be. And then life hit, right? So I worked in New York for a year. I met my wife, which is amazing. Good stint in New York. And then she followed me to California. And I met a guy out here about a decade older than me who became my business partner. And he really sold me on the idea of a firm as an investment firm. But really what we did is we created companies, right? So we would find good people married with good ideas and then raise capital. And we'd put people, money, and ideas together. And that's what I did. And that's what I found that I was very good at. I'm very good at building small teams quickly and spinning them up. And finding that kind of that core group of 4 or 5 people who can all kind of roll together and take an idea forward. And then you move to the board and you provide that governance and oversight. But I did a lot of that in healthcare. And I sort of developed this thesis early on in American healthcare that there were certain sectors where actually if you gave people more care up front, you saved money long term. And that's not every part of healthcare. But when you look at things like delivering healthcare for kids, like kids are great investments in healthcare. Right. And arguably like kids, I think Medicare, called Medicare for all. Let's start with kids under 18. That'd be a great policy agenda item to talk about. But if you think a lot about senior care, and though we take care of seniors in the US, we tend to wait for people to get really sick. Where all the data shows, if you actually
most expensive.
If you bring it to people's homes, particularly in rural areas, it saves money. Similarly, in you see this in mental health or in MSK with kind of surgeries versus physical therapy. So I built a series of businesses all based on this idea of adding more care and actually saving money down the line. And usually the customer was either the state, like with Medicaid or Medicare, or was a big insurer that was looking to save money, or sometimes an organization like Kaiser, which is self-insured, right, as an entity. But that was a lot of like my work, is creating these companies in these kind of certain verticals in healthcare.
So I now also want to pause because I want to recognize this is hard work. And
which part?
All of what he was just describing, Eric, you were just describing about your career path. And, obviously hard work to get through, advanced education. with or without means. That's a difficult challenge for everybody, right? So you do that, and then you again think you have one path, have to pick another, and then you don't just sit and bitch about it. You excel at it, and that's supposed to be what everybody should be proud of. I know based on some of what we hear now that it's campaign season, and believe me, we both understand what bullshit happens during campaigns. I know you probably heard stories of other people.
John, my cost per vote was one of the highest in Napa County, and I'm damn proud of it, John.
but it's like all of a sudden, your career success is supposed to be a bad thing to some people. Let's just stop that. But anyway.
But to your point though, like I think you sharing your story of you having a decision because of what your dad was going through of saying this so shit moment. Like people can relate to that, John, because we all face that adversity to the point where it's like you have this goal, this dream, and then shit happens.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the relatability part of that's life. Right. But to me, what I want to take a kind of a detour on is, so you did this, you realized there was a business in healthcare. What the hell happened that made you want to think about public policy? Because I think that's the question. You were doing well. You got a firm.
If you had only come to us first,
we would talk you out of it. But in seriousness, you had a moment of clarity. So like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. And this one's hard for me a little bit. So if I don't choose my words perfectly, excuse me. But so my son was born in 2021, and he was pretty sick when he was born. And he's great now, but a lot of things in my life changed. He had to have heart surgery when he was born. He spent a lot of the first year on his back. He frankly would not have survived birth without the magic of UCSF and great surgeons. And I say all that because I came out of that and my brain chemistry was totally changed. I was working 80 hours a week. And I said, I'm going to get rid of the 40 hours of stuff that I don't like. And I'm going to work a 40-hour week job, and I'm going to be a dad as much as I can.
Yeah, your priorities changed.
Totally. And then what's funny, because I created all this space in my life, and then he actually got better. And now I'm like, shit, now I've got space. And I think it also allowed me to like pick my head up and be like, okay, like what world are we living in? What world is he growing up in? Oh, that's also what prompted us to move to Napa. It was him, because we wanted space. We wanted a community, honestly, like be able to leave your door unlocked, like just these little things that people really prize here and they really value. So he was this big turning point for me. And that once I kind of picked my head up, I realized that I was really unhappy with the direction of my country. And that the story that I tell about how I grew up and then also building a business on their side, like those stories weren't being told, they weren't being valued. And it's just that everyone has to find their path and their journey. Yeah. And I was looking at young people in this country and realizing they didn't believe they had a path. Like they couldn't even if you asked them to pretend, they couldn't even vision what their lives could look like. And I spent a lot of time in public schools. Throughout COVID, I did a lot of work in people's homes even. And like, if we can't tell the future of our country and our kids can't tell it to themselves, and they're looking at a world that's so bleak. Yeah. And that to me was just realizing like public ed isn't getting better. Healthcare isn't getting better. Local government, I mean, in terms of responsiveness, when I talk to people, and this has nothing to do on the people in government, it's that the system has become really unwieldy. Yeah. And I think people suffer. So I was just looking at something, and I started a nonprofit called the American Dream Institute. And a lot of this is bringing aspiration back to the Democratic Party. And that was the idea of like, how do we bring these kind of core American values about creation and building back to the party? Because I realized they weren't there. They just didn't exist. Like we'd sort of become the party of the safety net, which again, I appreciate the safety. I needed the safety net, but let's talk about safety trampolines, right? How to like get kids out of these situations so they can go then tell stories like this. And to me, that had just left the political conversation.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just wondering if this is the time that the Rachel and Eric Jones Foundation was formed because of this whole thing. So maybe tell us a little bit about that also, because you aren't just seeing things that bother you and want somebody to do something about it. It looks like you've got a history of doing something about it.
Yeah. And this started during So, son was born during COVID. Also during COVID, I was spending a lot of time. I spent a lot of time in public schools in Northern California, and then in COVID, obviously schools weren't open, and
Public schools
weren't open, and I was like, wow, this is not good, because I actually started doing visits to families and realizing no one's ready for this. And you see like one family with 4 kids and 2 bedrooms and 2 phones, and somehow they're supposed to be on school. So the foundation kind of came out of this idea during COVID where I got a bunch of people together. We raised $10 million and we tutored 10,000 kids. And that led to a bunch of initiatives that Rachel and I took on separately around literacy, around early childhood education, around moms. That's really the focus of the foundation.
That's awesome.
But it kind of came out of these extra, the extra quote unquote 40 hours of just having more time, that and the nonprofit. And that's also when I decided, I really appreciated my business career, but I was getting so much joy out of the other stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, actually, could this be the full-time job? And I never thought that could be the full-time
John, don't
job.
talk him out of it, because we tend to do a good job talking people out of office. But to me, it's fascinating though, right? Because we all had different purposes of why we got into office, right? And I'm learning a little bit more about your purpose, Eric. And as a parent, like I hear like something like that happens to your family, it changes your whole lens. It changes your whole color, right? But what I want to pivot to though is you often get, you're getting labeled as a young guy, you made it, you have wealth. Now you're trying to run and be a good Democrat. And you're saying things that resonate though, right? Like your upbringings of working hard, right? Of struggling, of your dad in taking risk in business. How do you try to bring people along with you, right? Because I'm a Democrat, I'll just stick to myself, right? But I'm a business person, right? And I believe that whether you want to make money or the guy that's running a landscaping business out of his 3 trucks, and to him, that's his universe.
Yep.
But his universe is just as damn important as yours.
Yep.
But I feel like we've lost that as a party. So how do you try to convey your story of opportunity, the trampoline that you talked about, which just resonated with me? How do we get people to want to join that movement?
Talk about the American dream. And I know this is like this it's really tired idea, I guess, but what do we all want, right? And why do we go to work? And why do we give back to our community? Why do we value community in the first place, right? Yeah. And to me, if you look at the 2 parties today, right, there's some scary stuff on the right. Regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, I think most Republicans
Human
I know
nature, it's fucking scary.
Acknowledge there's some scary stuff going on. But on the left, like to me, what I want the Democratic Party to be is a multicultural, multiracial democracy defined by the idea of the American dream. And everyone's dream looks a little different. Now, you can't just take the dream out of that. If you take the dream away, we're just a multicultural, multiracial democracy, which is interesting. But it doesn't have the binding tissue. It doesn't bring
the reality part of that.
You need you need the why do we go to work every day? Why do we all live together in this community? Why do we care about each other? It's like those 2 things together, I think are really powerful. Otherwise, I don't what's the future look like? If we're not here to create something and pass something on, like why are we here in the first place? And that's just sort of that's stuck in my head. I don't know why. Yeah.
I know you've been all over the district, which is a new district also. So you've got some other areas that aren't or haven't been traditionally part of District 4, a little bit more up in the Sierra foothills and in different communities.
They make okay wine over there.
They try. Really
they grow
hard.
a lot of pistachios too. Some good nuts up that way.
But we consider ourselves rural here. They get very rural.
Yeah.
And what are the things that you're hearing? Because I know you have a message, a very thoughtful and lived message. What are you hearing from them about, not just about you? It's like, what are they caring about that they feel isn't being represented, or they're just not seeing what they want to see in their state and national leadership?
I love that you asked that question, because I also remind people that Bernie Sanders up here did really well, and he pulled the left and the right. And I say that, which is interesting. If you look at, and I say that because a lot of the areas up there, farmers who registered Republican and voted for Bernie Sanders. I only say that because there's commonalities. There's clearly commonalities, right? And to me, like every person I go to, they talk about affordability, housing. Why are we not building more housing? And healthcare. Like these are healthcare deserts. And I know we have the same concern in Napa. Like if
it's even more real in some of the other parts of the district.
What we feel here is just like, it's just like 10x when you get up to around like Colusa and Sutter, like it's just different. So like every American wants accessible, high quality healthcare. We can all debate how we get it to people, private, public, et cetera. But clearly left and right, people want it. They want a way for their parents to be taken care of. They want a way to have childcare because they recognize good luck finding childcare in any of these counties. It's so like the needs for these basic things around family that I think are really unifying, whether it's taking care of your kids or taking care of your parents. To me, that's the unifying message. And then there's certain things related to how government in California works. And this is like, hey man, can someone just pick up the phone? Like when I'm calling Caltrans, because I'm like, good luck, right? I'm calling PG&E touches everybody, right? What's that? Like,
I think we have to drink.
I just did an addition to my house, Eric, and PG&E's a pain.
Normally we drink when we talk about the county general plan, but this is a little broader than that.
So PG&E, right? I mean, seniors on fixed incomes, we've seen rates in 4 years go up 100%. If you're on a fixed income, Social Security as a senior,
it doesn't go up 400%.
That punishes you, right? You think about being like a young family renting, right? Yeah. You think about being a business owner and just trying to put an install in. We're putting down a traffic light, right? Even environmentalists, we're talking about wildfires, right? Like there's PG&E touches everything. And what PG&E is a government sponsored private monopoly. Which is the worst of all worlds. It's like the worst of bad government and the worst of bad private.
I will tell you, there's examples where you have affordable housing developments ready to go and PG&E cannot get them powered.
Yep.
That is ridiculous, unacceptable. And PG&E leadership knows about that. So, but let me kind of just give you a little bit of a change up, right? So you've outlined these issues, right? So for someone listening though, Eric, what are you going to bring to the table that's different?
Yeah.
Right. You've daylighted the affordability issue, which is real. You daylighted the healthcare issue, which you can relate to in spades with your dad and your son. Those are real things that people are dealing with today. So someone that's listening and they're thinking about who to vote for, what are you going to do differently?
So this is where,
I mean, I don't want to throw you softballs. I want to engage in the conversation.
This is where I get really disappointed in my own party.
Yeah.
Because let's use an example like Medicare for All. We've been talking about Medicare for All for a long time.
Yeah.
And let me just simplify this. We've been talking about the idea of getting everyone health care for a long time. But what have we actually done? Obamacare was a move in the right direction, but it's turned out to, we need to do more.
Correct.
And why aren't we doing more? Why aren't we?
But even look at that, just real quickly, look at that. It came up against such massive resistance for doing something that wasn't even enough.
Yes.
That's the problem.
But that's like incremental change.
But I don't think it's just incremental change. I think it's the insurance. The insurance industry does not want Medicare for all.
Correct.
The pharmaceutical industry does not want Medicare for all. The insurance industry and the pharmaceutical industry invest hundreds of millions of dollars every year into politicians' pockets,
correct,
such that they don't pass legislation.
So what are you going to do about it though?
Like you start with a movement to highlight that, because that's not a red or blue issue. That's both sides.
That's a good
point. The Democrats are more to blame on that in that regard. Democrats in DC. So just highlighting that, and look, I'm going to go in like no lobbyist is going to write my legislation. That's what lobbyists do. They prepare legislation for congressionals. I didn't realize this. I learned this. Like no one's going to do that for me. My team is going to do that. My legislative aides will find the best people and we'll do it together without corporate influence, and we'll push that agenda. And they have no leverage because they can't pull a donation from me.
Yeah.
They can't get their lobbying. I mean, they can't get their lobbying groups to pull.
Well, let's role play a little bit, John, because I think this is great and I appreciate your feedback. So you're going to be one of many.
Yep.
Right. So I'm going to say, Eric, I appreciate your drive. Convince me as your colleague and Missouri or the beautiful state of Texas.
You're sitting in a subcommittee right now and you're trying to get votes.
I think you have the right passion, but I think what people in this district want to see, how are you going to make it better, right? And clearly you've done things in life that have made you successful. So how does that translate to public policy?
It has to turn into results.
So let's go from big to little, right? So between everyone getting healthcare down to a specific idea. Senior care is a specific idea. Today, when someone turns 65, they spend on average 20 years on Medicare, and they cost the taxpayer, which is good. If you turn 65, you're going to live to 85. That's pretty on average. That's pretty good.
Wait, good data. Just let Alfredo make his joke.
How close are you, John? I'm sorry, man. I gave us a tee up.
I'm 3 years away from.
It was like the alley,
whatever he's going to do for me.
And I was just like LeBron James.
I wanted to make sure that you got your chance.
Yeah. You're a good sport.
Yeah. You got 3 years to fix Medicare, pal.
Jesus.
So $5,000 a year to the taxpayer. It's a we incur. That's the cost. And then in the last 2 years, it's $150,000.
Wow.
You think about that's about half of the total spend. You could take that money and you could start and give in-home nursing care starting at age 65. You can graduate care. Maybe at 65, John, you're just getting a phone call once a week from someone asking how you're doing. Maybe by 70, someone's coming by once a week to check on you and maybe do some monitoring. Maybe at 75, you actually have remote monitoring technology in your home. So if you have a heart condition, that we can actually track that. And this is so important in rural communities. And by the way, it saves us money and it keeps people in their homes longer. It keeps them closer to family. This is all possible without legislation. This is just lobbying. This is just talking to CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services in government. This is a great idea. Republican, Democrat, it's a great idea. And if you get enough people talking about it, but this is what I'm good at. What I'm good at is people, idea, money. Like this, I've been doing this is my career. So get good idea, rally the troops, and then go raise whatever the money needed to do it. We'll figure it out. Because this is a great idea. That's just one idea.
But I want to pause though, because I think that's exciting. And I think that's what people in the district want though, right? Is like the rinse and repeat thing is getting old, right? And I think, and look, you may bat 1,000, you may bat, 400.
Yeah.
But I do think people want new ideas that are tied to outcomes, right? Because I do think, John at 65 might get a little lonely. I'm still gonna call you, John. I don't want you to worry about that, right?
Thanks.
But if someone else calls you, that's
I'll send
meaningful.
flowers.
But I think those type of things.
Send wine.
Yeah, I'll send wine.
Good idea. But I think people do want government, though, Eric, to be more innovative, to be refreshing, to be a fountain of newness, whatever that may mean, right?
Well, I'll mention I had a family experience with my brother who it was amazing. He was 22 years a brain cancer survivor, which is unheard of.
Wow.
But the last, say 3 years of his life, especially, he needed, professional, facility care, full-time care. I was his power of attorney, and I had to count the number of days that he was in that facility.
Oh yeah. You get 120
when
total.
When you start getting close to the end, you're like, where are you going to move him? It's like, what do you mean move him?
Yep.
He's getting the care he needs now, and that's happening. And he actually had some resources that we could put into that, but most families don't. And you don't have to be 65 or over to have in-home, partial or full-time caregiving. You have veterans at a very young age that need that kind of care that in District 4 are driving hours or being, driven for hours to get to a facility for their care. And this is the United States. That's not what should be happening. Whether you have resources or you don't, you need access, and you need the assurance that the nation or the country or the state or whatever will be there for you when you need it. And there's no guarantee what age you're going to be. So we can't just wait to 65 to get services. Yep. We need the services available at a much higher level, much sooner. Children that need care. I don't know where you can find the most encouraging positive aspect of public health care right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Amy Harold on, who runs, Providence Queen of the Valley
She talked about
Medical
peanuts.
Center. Yeah, she did. But it was also it's about giving care to people that need it, regardless of whether they have money or not.
Well, and this is where I completely agree with you. I mean, this is why I told my personal story up front. Healthcare, I think, is a fundamental human right. So if we can all acknowledge that. Now, I'm not saying then we can decide how we get it to people. Some people can pay for it. Yeah. I've told you what I believe, but at least let's have the debate once we start with your statement, Sean, that people deserve care, right? In this 21st century world, people deserve care. And what I like to highlight is that care delivered outside of a hospital is often higher quality and lower cost.
But that's a different paradigm shift, though, right?
And thinking about that in rural, particularly in non-urban communities, where that's where technology can be helpful. I mean, to your point around, I've visited many of the veterans, the homeless veterans in Napa Valley, with a mobile care unit. And you talk to these people, and what you realize is if they were just somewhere where they could get care, not even 24/7, but a couple hours a day, they wouldn't be homeless anymore. But we can't even find them sometimes. So just getting people access to care gets them on the right pathway.
One of the issues that I see at the national level, especially, is that all makes sense and goes back to your point. You go into the committee room or the chambers, and now it's about voting count.
Yeah.
D versus R. What are we going to do to stop this? Because we don't want the other side to get a win. And that's happening on both sides. And
that's true.
That's where I think goes back to your point of you need to be able to change that dynamic. And I see a trend, if not kind of a groundswell of people are tired of watching the same people do the same stuff. And even just a couple decades ago, if not more recently, we hear stories about how Democrats and Republicans would fight on the floor in committee, whatever. Then they go out and have a beverage or dinner or something together and be social because there was more relationship building.
Yeah.
There's zero of that now.
Well, we made it that way though, John, right?
Oh yeah. But how do you unmake it? And that's the thing is that's part of what has to happen. You can't just be another person saying the same things that the party wants you to say if you can't deliver on that.
Well, and this also starts to agree with party alignment. I don't believe that any politician should enter any office with their votes predetermined and their agendas predetermined. But if you're a Democrat or Republican today, that's kind of what it is. So, but you have to start from a position of independence. And that starts by rejecting corporate money.
Well, I was going to say that's because the money has gone to the extremes.
Correct. And to what you said, I have faith that Americans will always do the right thing at the last possible moment. And it's gotten so bad that I do think that we will see renewed bipartisanship. You have folks who are doing it. And if you pick ideas like healthcare that are truly everyone can get behind. I mean, Donald Trump's talking about pharmaceutical prices. Yeah. Bernie Sanders talked about pharmaceutical prices, right? Like they're all talking about it because we all see the issue. So I think we start with maybe the easy stuff like immigration. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be really, really hard. But healthcare, we should be able to get there on healthcare.
I remember, and I'm going to reference Joe Gisletta. Yeah, rest in peace. But Joe Gisletta would often say, you can take the left and the right and put them in the closet and lock the doors and turn off the light. And most of the time they'll agree on stuff. And I think that's true, right? To your point.
When the cameras are off.
Yeah, because healthcare is healthcare and immigration is immigration, whether you're a Republican, a business owner, or a lefty that believes in social, it's there, right? But I think we spend enough time talking about kind of the older population. I think part of what's also attractive, Eric, is that you're younger, you have young kids, you're all into Napa County. How do you relate or how do you reach that younger group that is maybe disenfranchised with government? They're too busy in line at the coffee shop or going to go to soccer practice later today. I'm projecting what I'm going to do, right? How do you reach them for them to get engaged enough to care about politics? Not in a, I'm going to go hold a sign on this 3rd Street bridge so I feel important. Like, great for you that you took a picture so you can post on social media. Like, there's more to that. So how are you going to relate to them?
Yeah. Look, charismatic young leaders have always shown, whether it was Barack Obama, JFK, or Zoran Mamdani, charismatic dude, shown that when you say the right message with the right mouthpiece to the right people, you can mobilize voters. Young people do turn out, but they don't turn out if they feel like they're not being talked to. And when I look at Apple Podcasts and look at the top 10 voices on the political side of things, they're all Republican. 8 of the 10 are Republican, and they're younger.
We're not in the top 10,
and they're
we're strapping along, John.
After this,
you're top 10 in Napa County. Definitely
generous.
I think we might be top 2. And they're only 2.
But they've done a better job at cultivating young, diverse voices than we have, and they showed they had more youth turnout than we did in the presidential. So I think if we have younger voices speaking to issues that young people actually care about, like housing, like like college education. How are we going to pay for it? How are we going to get there? What are the pathways? I mean, housing is we're going to talk about housing again because housing really matters. Everyone wants the American dream, and owning a home is a fundamental part of that.
Yeah.
And we weren't talking about that stuff last election. We weren't. So maybe if we get the right message delivered by the right people in the right way, we're not just on MSNBC. We're on podcasts, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram. Like, all of that will mobilize young people because they'll feel like they're being talked to, not just talked down to. I think right now, people feel like they're being talked down to by someone 40 years, 50 or 60 years older than them.
Yeah. Hey, watch it. Be careful.
No, you'd be a young politician in Congress.
That's right. I told you about my musical taste. It does not fit my profile. Yeah. But
I'll just in Oakland after.
Yeah, I'll just highlight what the Napa Chamber did with their Economic Outlook conference a few weeks back. They had a panel of new voices of the future. And there were some middle schoolers. There was a current Napa Valley College and a recent college graduate. And they were talking about some of this very thing. And a couple, I think it was an 8th grader, said, just let us try and fail.
Yeah.
But listen to us and respect that we have, opinions. And it's so easy to demean or dismiss young voices. And so it's hard, whether that's an 8th grader, a college student, or somebody in their 30s, 40s. The older folks, I know better. We've got this. We know, we've lived it. You haven't lived enough. You don't have enough experience to really understand the big picture. It's like, it's difficult to break through that, but it's worth at least making the effort. And what I'm hearing from you is a commitment to that effort. And it's not easy. I mean, I trust that you are fully prepared for what you are hoping you get into. And so I'm not going to keep rambling on anymore, but
you are rambling.
I know. But I'm just going to drink.
No, but yeah,
but look,
that's where the genius comes in.
I think to Eric's point, as we hit on the time clock, John, because I do got to go pick up kids or take kids to soccer. Right. I want to thank you, Eric, because it's easy to sit on the sideline, right? It's easy to bitch. It's easy to complain, but you're jumping in. You're all in, right? Your family's here. We've had a chance to meet your family, and that's exciting, right? So I think for you, though, right, is if you had one message, right, for someone that doesn't know you, right, someone that reads what the opposition is saying about you, right, what would you say to them in terms of why they should vote for you? And that's after a couple of glasses. We've had wine. Yeah.
Well, let me start by saying, just have a conversation with me. I will be open, accessible. You'll have my phone number, my email. I will talk to anybody, anywhere, at any time. I will listen to anybody. And our government at the federal level is not working. Whether you're on the left or on the right or in the center, it's not working. So I would just ask that people pick their heads up, acknowledge that for younger people, and more marginalized people in our country, it's working even less.
Yeah.
It's delivering even less. And if we don't fix this, if we don't have a future in America, if we don't believe in a brighter future, if we can't promise that our kids will have it better than we had, or our community will be better off when we leave it, then we don't have a country anymore. And just being on autopilot and doing things the way they've been done in this moment will not hold. It won't. That's why I'm doing this. It will not hold. And whether it's me or someone else completely different, give new voices a chance. The average American is 39 years old. It's more than 20 years younger than the average Democrat in Congress. And that means that half of our country is younger than 39. Where's their representation?
Yeah.
And that's why we have to think about the future.
Well, we've said repeatedly on our previous episodes about don't just talk about it, do something about it. And whether people agree or disagree with you and what you're representing and what you're trying to do, you are doing something about it. And so people should respect that. I know we certainly do. We wanted to have you on here to have this kind of in-depth conversation. So we really want people to understand you more as a full person, not just a candidate.
Thank you.
And that's not easy to do when you're out stumping, right? And you're talking about the issues, which is what you have to do. We understand that uniquely, I think, having done it. But when you're genuine, people can tell. And when you're just full of shit because you've got talking points that you have to repeat and recite, and they see it in your eyes and hear it in your voice, they're going to know the difference.
Well, and look, I learned something about you, Eric, that I didn't know, right? You know, because being Latino, right, you often project our story of being the first. And that really, it hit me. Like when you said, I'm like, holy shit, you know, like because too many of us sometimes say we're the first this and that, and you know who I'm talking about, John. And to have someone say that doesn't look like me, it checked me a little bit, right? Because that is America, right? And in the community that I grew up in, a lot of the people that said I'm the first looked like me, but that's not representative of our America today. And I think that is what needs to happen right now. It's checking itself, saying, damn, someone like you that went through that, made it, now wants to give back. We should celebrate as good Americans. We should celebrate that because we're going to be better off.
And don't go back to, I don't know if it was like in season 1, like episode 2 or 3, Alfredo asked me, because we were talking about the vitriol and the toxicity of politics these days. He asked me would you run today, or would you recommend to somebody to run for office today? I said, no.
Jesus Christ, you're going to end with that?
No, but I said, I'm inspired by your perspective and your commitment to know it's hard, but you can still do it. And that's what your track record has done. I mean, going to school, it's not easy. Creating businesses and bringing people together and making them very successful, not easy. This is not going to be easy if this happens for you. And we both fully appreciate the fact that you are willing to, this is a sacrifice. You're willing to sacrifice your personal life to a degree. You have to hold that dearly while you do this, because we both know how it impacts personal lives. And so I just say thank you. I totally respect your willingness to do this. And I know you've got a lot more time in front of you the next many months.
Thank you.
But thank you again for your willingness to do it.
Well, I'll use our last cheer as an opportunity for words of wisdom that I think I stole. But there's a theory of life, which is find great people, find an impossible goal, accomplish said goal with said people, and then at the end of it, celebrate.
Well done.
And maybe if you can do it, have a glass of nice Napa Valley cab or some champagne if that's your thing. If that's your thing,
that was well done.
And then repeat, because what else are we here for? But you need the good people. You definitely need the good people. You need the celebration. The other stuff is kind of secondary, but the good people in the celebration
and the good Napa Valley wine.
And the good Napa Valley wine. Cheers.
His district's a little wide.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Alfredo, I really appreciated talking to Eric today. I know that we kind of have a unique perspective, having been in elected office and running campaigns personally. What are your thoughts?
I was blown away in the sense of, I've heard the rhetoric about him or the optics of young guy, he's made money and it's kind of being held against him. But I was really struck by some of the things he said, right? And I'm not projecting, but when he said, that he was the first of his family to go to college, it checked me a little bit, right? Because I'm that, right? And I projected because it's typically people that look like me that say that. And it really made me realize how we're all going through our own adversity. We're all going through our own story. And people can judge them based off what they see today. But there's something there that I think is compelling of why he's running for office.
I appreciated his passion. I appreciated that he has a perspective that is really relevant. I've only known him for a few months now, and really appreciate the fact that he's willing to step up and run. We've talked before about people. They're very well intentioned, and I appreciate that they come out and protest. And what we've said is, don't just go back home and say you've done your duty. He's got a young family. And he could just settle in and raise the family and be safe, but he's taking a risk, and I respect that.
And look, it was different for me, John, right? Because I've been the young guy. I've been the guy that's ambitious. The guy
I was young at 1.2.
No one can remember that, John, because it happened so long ago. But I know what it's like to be that determined, to be that ambitious, and to go through the motions. But I pick up something different, right? Like, this guy's not doing it for connections. He's not doing it, to check a resume. Not that we did it for that, John, but he's doing it because he cares. And I think he really fundamentally believes that he can create outcomes that are different. And we should acknowledge that. Now, I don't think we threw him these softball questions. I think we asked him, like, okay, why the hell are you doing this? You're not dumb.
But he has to make a difference, right?
He does, but look, we've been that. Like, when you're young, John, I know that was many moons ago for you, but when you're young, you think you can go make a difference tomorrow. I think he's level setting on the reality of what it takes to make a difference. Like when you said, hey, phenomenal, great speech, but you're gonna be in a fucking committee hearing, how are you gonna compel people to talk about that? Like, that's real stuff. What's different for him though is he's built a business where he's had to make those decisions, where he's had to put all his chips on the table and say, I'm all in, risking his family, his wife, and this and that. And he's stepping away from that because there's something that compels him to make a difference in public policy.
And that was his personal journey that has compelled him to do it.
I didn't know that before. I didn't know that.
I remember when you said,
oh shit,
when you were running for city council in Napa, and you were told to wait your turn, that you were too young, you didn't have experience, and so therefore apparently you weren't relevant.
In hindsight, maybe, John, I should have waited my turn, but we can joke around about that. But
you know what I'm saying.
I get your point though, right? But that pisses you off, right? And I think for Eric, he's in a different spot where he's not gonna do it the way I did it or the way you did it. He's gonna do it his way.
Yeah.
And I think his way is genuine, it's authentic, where he does genuinely want to make a difference. Why else would he be missing time from his kids? He's sacrificing that for a reason. And I think it's what I can relate to, John. It's that grit. It's that, oh shit, I'm gonna make it better. And that's exciting for people. Like I get it, right? Like I think he played sports. He kind of alluded to that a little bit. You're wired that way. It's like, okay, you're telling me we're not gonna do healthcare for all? Watch me, right? You're telling me that we can't have affordable housing? Watch me. And when you come from a business world, John, you're wired that way, right? Because that's what we're up against every day as a business owner. And I think he's gonna translate that. He has an uphill to climb, right? Because it's not easy, but guess what? It shouldn't be easy when you're trying to represent people in the federal government, right? So I think his entrance into the race is gonna make it better for all of us. And that's a win.
I absolutely respect that he's willing to make the effort and be all in, like you said.
Yeah.
And we need more people like that.
Well, and I think we're going to have Congressman Thompson here too. And my message to both of them is stop with the theater, right? Like, Talk about what you're going to do, what you've done for people, and how you're going to make people's life better. That's what they care about. They don't care about these little tidbits or these newsletters that are intended to click, right, or donate $5 here. People want action.
Results.
Correct, John. So on that point,
cheers.
I'm going to drink this wine.